Welcome to Behave Yourself, the podcast that aims to bring the science of human behavior and how you can apply it to your own life and become the happiest, healthiest, and most successful version of you.
We're two behaviour analysts with backgrounds in personal training and nutrition who've struggled in the past with confidence, weight loss, breaking promises to ourselves, and constantly trying the quick fixes.
We bring the science and show you how to apply it confidently and consistently towards your own goals and how to actually create a lifestyle change.
Behaviour analysis is the science of human behaviour, and we all engage in behaviours that either move us towards the direction of our goals or hold us back from living the life we desire.
I'm one of your hosts, Emily McCrae.
And I'm your other host, Jo Wesley. Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good. I know we have a couple of our behaving yourself responses ready. So I have not been behaving myself well with my vegetables. I stopped tracking them, and that's when I fell off. So I needed a little bit more focus with them. So that's going to be my new focus. I've done a month of taking my vitamins consistently morning and night, which is a huge step for me. So still going to continue tracking that because I clearly need more time tracking to maintain, just like the vegetables. So going to focus on both of those now.
Nice.
How have you been behaving?
Also not particularly well. It's been Christmas, and as anyone that listened to our last podcast can probably hear, I have been eating a lot more dairy, which long-time listeners will know makes me a little bit, I get a frog in my throat lots when I've been eating dairy, and I'm not allergic to it, but when I do eat it, I just get quite phlegmy and I get a bit spotty, and I enjoyed lots of delicious food over Christmas, but just ate more dairy than I would normally eat, and it was delicious, and I don't regret it one bit, but maybe not the best for my health.
Okay. We'll get back into it. I didn't think it was that bad.
No, exactly. I eat it knowing what's going to come in the week or so after eating it, and I'm okay with that because it's delicious, and food has different purposes, and sometimes it's just because it's delicious, and that food was delicious.
Awesome.
Yeah. So today we're going into sleep.
Yay.
Is sleep something that you're particularly good at?
Oh yeah. I've actually joked. I was like, I could be a professional sleeper. I don't want to pride myself on it because I definitely struggle with constant fatigue. And I know a lot of people will come at me and say, well, it's your sleep quality. It's this, it's that. I sleep beautifully. I don't wake up in the middle of the night. I sleep literally head hits the pillow and I fall asleep. So, but I can also go and nap. And when was it? Last Saturday, maybe I didn't set an alarm. So typically I will set an alarm and wake up, but I didn't. And I slept for like a solid 3.5 hours.
Dreamy.
And I woke up only, I think, because Tom came into the room and I heard the door, but I was probably on the verge of waking up. But yeah.
Good for you.
3.5 hours.
I am not a good sleeper. So in some ways, I think it's quite good that I've prepared this episode because over the years of all the things that I've tried to fix my sleep, I've tried plenty of them and gone and done all the research and whatnot. You're also what we would call a night owl, right? You're better late at night.
Yes and no. My husband would probably disagree that I'm a night owl, but I'm up later with him because that's our time together. But I'm not a morning person or a night person. I'm like a midday. There's like a meme and it's like, I'm not a night owl or a morning whatever. I'm a day pigeon. Like that's me. I am good during the day, but we're up late for sure. Compared to you, we're up a lot later.
Yeah, I'm definitely a morning bird. Like a lion for me is waking up at 6 a.m. Typically, I wake up at 5 a.m., but on a bad morning, it's 3 or 4 a.m. But then, as you say, I'm in bed by 9 o'clock, 9:30.
Right. And there's nights where I don't get home until 9. So my day is just shifted. But yeah, I always see your Instagram stories and it's like 5 a.m. and I'm like, well, and because of our time difference too. You'd be like eating lunch. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just woke up. Like, and then I have to remind myself, like, you've had 5 extra hours of the day to do things.
Yeah,
But
my lunch is sometimes at 11 a.m. and that's
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, so what is sleep? Sleep behaviorally is it's a reversible, don't know why that was so hard, reversible behavioral state of perceptual disengagement from and unresponsiveness to the environment. It's also a complex amalgam of physiologic and behavioral processes. I think this is a really nice behavior analytic way and a mouthful way of saying that we don't have a clue about what sleep is behavior analytically. And actually, if you go into the research, the behavior analytic research into sleep, there's not a huge amount about it.
Mhm.
So, episode done. No. There are some recommendations, but most of them have been conducted on children. But I still think that actually most of them could then be applied to ourselves. So this episode, I'm going into sleep for ourselves, not for our children. But equally, you could apply them to your kids as well.
Yeah.
So essentially, a sleep problem is a deficit. It's a deficit of either falling asleep, staying asleep, getting enough sleep, snoring, nightmares. There's something going wrong there if you're not getting good sleep. And I think for everyone, it's quite individual and quite different. Some people with insomnia really struggle falling asleep. And from the research that I've done, this seems to be the best kind of insomnia to have. So, trouble falling asleep, there seems to be quite a lot of research in the scientific community, not just within behavior analysis. There's lots of research about how to help people that struggle to fall asleep. What I struggle with, and what a lot of our Facebook listeners ask questions about, they seem to struggle with, is staying asleep. So I can fall asleep like you. As soon as my head hits the pillow, I'm gone. And Jim almost jokes about it. Like, he reckons if he timed it, I can fall asleep in less than a minute. I can't stay asleep. So after about 4 hours, I will often be then quite disturbed and wake up. And long term, I can survive on 4 or 5 hours and stay sane. And actually, interestingly, the British Army has done quite a lot of research into sleep and how little they can let their soldiers get away with without them going mad. And clinically crazy. Like, if you don't get enough sleep over time, you will start hallucinating and quite literally losing your mind. But the British Army have worked out that 4 hours a night on a long-term basis is more than enough to keep people maybe not feeling great and healthy, but sane and functioning with a gun. So 4 hours is kind of like what's minimum, but you definitely want more than that. So poor sleep is quite problematic. You might lose your mind, but poor sleep over time, for lots of reasons, it's problematic. If you're tired, you might not be able to function as well. You might be a bit crabbier than usual. It can send your hormones out of whack. Even your, like we talked about in the weight loss episodes, your hunger and fullness hormones can be quite out of whack when you're hungry. I think quite literally because your body is going, I haven't had enough sleep and I need energy. Feed me sugar. I need some other form of energy. Why else might poor sleep be problematic?
I mean, it also leads to kind of, low energy in terms of you're not going to work out. You're just gonna be like, tired. You're not gonna move your body or even get that walk in like I recommended. You can't really give your all emotionally or mentally to your friends, your family, your job. You're just not gonna have that kind of resource in you and resourcefulness. And you may start kind of not being the best, showing up as the best person that you want to show up as for those people.
Yeah, for sure. And I think particularly being awake in the middle of the night, if you can't fall asleep or can't stay asleep, we almost call it the witching hour. There's those hours of the night where suddenly the things that wouldn't normally concern you become massive problems. And when you wake up in the morning and you've had some decent sleep, you think, like, of course I'm not worried about what my third grade teacher thought of my pigtails. Like, that's ridiculous. But in the middle of the night, it's a very real thing to panic about for some people. So in terms of the different research, I've looked at some behavior analytic research from a few different people, mainly Hanley, because I love him and he can do no wrong. But also Matthew Walker and Sean Stevenson have both written books, and Matthew Walker is one of the lead researchers. He's written a book called Why We Sleep, It's a great book. It's quite heavy going. And honestly, if you go and look at his TED talk, he essentially tells you most of the things that are in his book for free and within a very digestible 10 to 15-minute TED talk. So it's a good one to read. And Sean Stevenson has lots of similar recommendations, and so does Greg Hanley. So I think they've probably got something going there. I worry about some of the research and the things that the researchers and researchers themselves say, in that I think it can cause quite a lot of panic about the lack of sleep. So they might say, oh, if you don't sleep, then this will happen to you. I don't really know how helpful that is if somebody's already worried about not getting enough sleep, and how true it is necessarily. So other researchers have also said that actually, in times gone by, even 100 or 200 years ago, humans didn't sleep 8 hours a night. That's not normal. They would sleep for 2 or 3 hours, then they'd get up and eat and do some childcare and feed the babies, and then they go back to sleep. I think essentially because when the sun went down, they might have fallen asleep at, certainly in England right now, the sun's down at 6 p.m. They might have fallen asleep then for a few hours and then woken up and eaten what we would now call dinner. So I think there can be a lot of anxiety around what we should do and shouldn't do. Anyway, I'm going to go through some of the recommendations that I have kind of pulled together from all the different researchers, and try to make them more applicable and helpful.
Perfect.
Okay. So the first one is exercise. So the general recommendation is to exercise at least every other day, but not 4 hours before bed or less. Essentially, I think because it raises your heart rate, raises your levels of cortisol, and so almost wakes you up before you're trying to get ready to calm down and go to bed. But exercising at least every other day will make your body tired, if not your mind tired. The second recommendation would be no caffeine, and this can be quite different for everyone. Some people, the way that you process caffeine is very individual. Some people can drink, like the Italians can drink an espresso after dinner at 9 p.m. and then fall asleep at night. I am not Italian, and I am not one of those people that can do that. So caffeine has a mean half-life of about 5 hours, but it can range from anything between 1.5 and 9 hours. And it's just individual in different people. I've actually given up caffeine completely in a bid to try and help my sleep. I think I stopped drinking caffeine probably exactly this time last year. And it made me very tired at first because I had been a long time coffee drinker, and I did sleep better at first. I think it's probably evened out now and it doesn't make a huge difference, but it's something to try if you are struggling to sleep. Try either reducing it or giving it up. If you are going to give it up, go slowly. Don't go cold turkey.
Oh yeah.
It's awful.
Super slow. Replace it with like a half decaf and then go from there. I did that over quarantine actually, because I realized partway through quarantine, I was like, wow, I'm drinking about 3 cups of coffee a day just because I was home and it was there in my coffee mug.
And when I say go slowly, like the headaches that I had from giving it, and I went slowly, but going down from 1 to 0 cups, essentially caffeine constricts the blood vessels in your body, including in your head and brain. And so when you give it up, your blood vessels are then wider and it physically is pushing against your brain. And so the headaches that you're getting feel like your head is going to implode. Not because it is, but that's why it's that your head is under a lot of pressure. So really go slowly with it, even if, like Emily says, you just do half a cup at a time. The next recommendation is not to nap, especially after 3 o'clock. And if you do end up napping accidentally, or if this is a kid and the kid ends up napping accidentally, we've all been with the child or the nephew you're trying to shake awake in the back of the car, and put them to bed later because they've had the nap, and so you can't expect them to then fall asleep at the same time. So like I love a good afternoon nap on a Sunday, and often I will nap from say 1 p.m. till 2 p.m. and then we'll podcast all afternoon and evening. And so where I would normally go to bed at 9 p.m. on a Sunday, I might not go to bed till 10 or 11 p.m. because I've had that hour's nap earlier in the day. Your bed and your bedroom should only be for sleeping. And this is a really hard one because I know I come from a very privileged position of having a space where I can do my work that's not my bedroom. I know during lockdown, a lot of people have had to convert their bedrooms into their everything space, from socializing to work, socializing on Zoom, I don't know, maybe you were socializing in your bedroom, socializing by Zoom, as well as work, as well as sleep, as well as drying your laundry. But as much as you can, just have your bed in your bedroom for sleep. And your bed being for sleep, once you've gone to bed at night, and if you can't get to sleep after 15 minutes, get up and leave the room and don't be in bed, and then just go and do something that's very mundane. Essentially, you don't want your brain to start pairing bed with a place that I lie in awake, and I lie in worrying. So get up, go and do something like putting the dishes away, or I don't know, something quieter like folding socks, and then go back a bit later and try again, so that your brain pairs bed is where I sleep, other places is where I do my thinking. Eating carbohydrates before bed, this isn't something a lot of people would probably think I would recommend. It's different for different people. Some people find that a carby, proteiny snack before bed really helps them. It would take too long to go into the physiological processes, but carbs can sometimes help people sleep. And particularly if it's a hunger thing throughout the night. Some people with very fast metabolisms might wake up in the night because they're hungry, but if they've had carbs and protein before bed, it might help them sleep throughout the night. Stop me at any point if I'm going too quickly, or if you have any questions.
No, you're good. I love all these. It's very interesting because most of it doesn't apply. And I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. Like,
yeah,
good.
I've tried most of these at one point or another, and maybe I'll stop and kind of say which ones I found more helpful. But I guess that's a really interesting point, that take your own data, because with all of these, some of them will work better for some people and some of them work better for others. So like naps, for example, help me to delay then my sleep. Eating carbohydrates before bed make me as high as a kite. So that doesn't help me. Not cutting out caffeine maybe has helped a little, and exercise helps a little, but yeah, take your own data and work out what's best for you.
Yeah, I have clients who they say they sleep like me because they know I sleep really well, but they sleep like me on Tuesday nights after they come to our team workout because it's so hard that they're exhausted. But I have another client who, if she works out at night, she is wired for the entire night and cannot sleep. So she doesn't come to my 6:00 class.
Twice a week, I used to teach insanity classes after my day job. So in a local gym from 8 till 9 p.m., I taught insanity. And so I was doing the insanity workout with the group that was doing it. And I'd struggle to sleep that night because exercise that late in the day just doesn't work with me.
It's a late class, 8 to 9.
Ugh, no. And no, doing insanity twice a week, no thanks.
It's brutal.
Yeah. Okay, sedating medications, so kind of medicines that help you fall asleep, can be great. I'm not saying that they're a bad thing, and obviously talk to your doctor. Don't just get them on a whim. If you're struggling to fall asleep, things like melatonin or things that help you fall asleep can be fantastic, but they should definitely be a short-term solution. Maybe if you're not sleeping for a particular reason, you're stressed at work or you're grieving something and you're struggling to shut your mind off, it can get you back into better sleeping habits, but it can interfere with your body's natural ways of learning how to fall asleep by itself. And so it's definitely not something to do long term. And I always worry about recommending supplements as a general rule, because I don't think there's a general supplement rule, but trying magnesium can help. And there's different types of magnesium. But definitely talk to your doctor. Magnesium can really help sleep. It can also give you some really fun dreams. So I sometimes take magnesium, and I find when I take magnesium, I just have really wacky dreams, and not like I get nightmares at other times, but magnesium in general just gives me quite fun dreams.
Huh.
That's fun. Minimize the activities that you do in bed. So I really like to read 10 minutes of a novel before I go to bed, but that's all. So not playing on your phone, not watching your iPad. I don't understand this concept of having a TV in your room.
No.
It is for sleep. That is all.
Yeah.
So yeah, minimizing the kind of things that you do in bed. Have a nighttime routine. And so we do this with kids. I don't know why we stop doing it when we get to adulthood, but at a certain time of day, turning the lights down, stopping using your screen, maybe charging your phone overnight in another room, not in your bedroom, not right next to your head. Making your room a bit cooler. having a consistent pattern of actions, it almost pairs the idea of going to sleep in your brain. Like, first I have a bath or my face wash, or I take my makeup off, then I put my pajamas on, then I have a cup of tea, and then I go to bed, or brush my teeth and go to bed, whatever. But it kind of prepares you for winding down.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be taken anywhere with you. So you could take that same routine with you when you go on holiday or wherever you are. Have a think about other things that might disturb you throughout the night. So maybe your air conditioning unit switching off or on throughout the night. You might want to think about that. For me, it's very uncontrollable. I live in Zone 2 London. There are noises all day, every day. But Jim is also a little bit of a snorer. So I wear earplugs, and that helps massively. And sleep hygiene. So certain recommendations that the researchers recommend. In general, your room should be really dark. It should be cooler than you would perhaps be comfortable in, because you're going to be under a blanket. I can't remember the exact degrees they suggest, but essentially window open or air conditioning on. And there should be no distractions in the room, and there should be no electronics in the room. When you're looking at your own data, get really comfortable with what's normal for you. Someone asked about fitness trackers in terms of sleep or sleep trackers, and I really don't like them because I think they give people a huge amount of anxiety where it's not needed. Also, if you get comfortable with what's normal for you, the fitness trackers can be helpful because you know what's normal for you. So when you see that you've only slept for 5 hours, even though you knew you were in bed for 7 hours, you can just think to yourself, oh, I know that my Fitbit's a little bit inaccurate. Whereas a new Fitbit wearer or Apple Watch wearer will probably be quite panicked and worried about that. But take your own data. Someone else on the Facebook group asked about elevated heart rate and how that affects sleep. I don't know, dear Facebook user, who I don't want to mention the name of, but I bet if you compare your sleep data with your elevated heart rate data with your menstrual cycle, I bet they're connected. So you can look at depending on what data your smartwatch takes, you can very accurately predict when your period is going to start. Sorry, men. By your heart rates, you will have elevated heart rate at a number of points throughout the month, and you can see beautiful patterns of how it happens. And when your heart rate reaches its highest, that's when you're about to start your period. That's when you'll have your worst sleep for a few days. And then after starting your period, a day or two later, you'll suddenly get a lot better sleep and your heart rate will plummet down again. So very much be in control and be the master of your own data there, and start plotting things against each other, and you'll start seeing all sorts of different patterns. There are more smart fitness trackers like the Aura Ring and a few others that take into account blood oxygenation. But again, you're going to need to compare them with lots of other things, because that might be more indicative of a breathing problem than anything else. And so if you're really, really worried about your sleep, or if you notice that you wake yourself up feeling like you're choking or anything like that, it's time to see your doctor, because it could be that you have something like sleep apnea where you are not sleeping well and you need to go to a proper sleep clinic.
Yeah.
Someone else on the Facebook group mentioned 7 types of rest, and I had a look into it. It's seemingly no research and data into it. It was written by a medical doctor, but not an expert in sleep. But what she said was just really interesting and seems to make sense. So essentially what she was saying is there's different types of rest. If you find that you are overthinking things and anxious about things, maybe you've not got enough rest from work. If you are finding that you have got restless leg syndrome and just can't stop moving, maybe you need more rest from movement. And she was saying there's lots of different types of rest. If you have got brain fog and you just can't think of new ideas, maybe you need a break from having to be a creative person. And there's different types of rest, which I think can be really helpful. Like, I know that I used to struggle to switch off my work brain about the kids that I work with at night. So now my work phone stays in a different room and gets turned off at night, and that's really helped. And so if you're finding one particular area of your restfulness is lacking, maybe look into what's feeding into that. But I couldn't find any data related to it.
Yeah.
So I think there's lots of different recommendations there. My big thing would be to start tracking your own data, be wary of the data that you get from fitness trackers, or take them with a pinch of salt, and just know that they are consistently inaccurate. So my fitness tracker will consistently tell me I've had 5 hours, even though I've been in bed with my eyes closed for 7 or 8 hours. So I know it's inaccurate, but it is consistently inaccurate. So I know if it tells me I've had 8 hours, I've probably had an amazing night's sleep. But if it says I've had 2, then I've probably had more like 4 or 5 hours. Just take your own data and see what works for you. Different things will work for different people.
Yeah. I like mine. I always try and like guess if I know I woke up in a terrible fog and I was really, really out of it when I woke up and I look at my tracker, I most likely have woken up in the middle of a REM cycle. And my patterns are because I fall asleep and I wake up literally, and that's it, unless I've had too much like water at night, and then I'll wake up to go to the bathroom. But really, that's super rare. But I can tell immediately if I've like woken up in the middle of a really deep cycle of sleep because I am so out of it, like beyond functioning. I've walked out of my apartment without my contacts put in and been like, it's a little blurry. It's a little not right.
Actually, that brings up one more recommendation that I'd completely forgotten about. You were saying how when I've had too much to drink, and I was thinking, oh yeah, no, but actually with alcohol might help you fall asleep really easily, but it will help you wake up a lot sooner as well, particularly, as you get older. But nowadays, if I have a glass of wine or two, I'll wake up after 3 or 4 hours for sure.
Yeah, I sleep terribly if I've drank, not a lot, but like if I've drank enough that it definitely messes with my ability to sleep for sure. It's the only time I probably don't sleep well.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So something to think about. Anyway,
Yeah.
Any questions about any of that, let us know. You can email us at behaveyourselfpod@gmail.com. You can find our Instagram at behaveyourselfpod, at behaveyourself.
Yep. At behaveyourselfpod.
At behaveyourselfpod. Thank you. You can find Emily at emily.a.mccrae. I can't ever remember, sorry. You can find me at the Behavior Lady.
I missed that. And behavior is spelled with a U. No more.
No,
it's all gone.
You will find an account wherever you look. You'll just be redirected back to my profile. I just got sick of the difference.
Saying that.
Yeah. And actually most of my followers in America, and I just hate the thought, because I am such a nerd for spelling, the idea that someone might be thinking, oh, she can't spell behavior properly. Never mind. No. A quick disclaimer: whilst we're both behavior analysts and qualified in our respective fields, this podcast is for education and for information sharing only, and shouldn't be taken as personal, medical, or behavioral advice or services.
Awesome. So
I don't think
next time.
I don't know
our
if we
plan
know
for
what we're
next
doing.
time.
Do we?
Yeah. The 4 functions. Why we do what we do. All the function series. I'm super excited for this.
That is exciting. Back to basics, and back to we haven't gone off topic. We've gone more into nutrition and movement and other things. I'm excited to get back to the ABA basics.
That'll be exciting.
Nice.
All right.
See you next time.
See you next time. Bye.